I'm just gonna talk through Forget Myself, the one featuring Maisie first, and it's kind of simple. It sounds complicated, but there's not really a whole lot going on. I just wanted to talk through all the effects and everything, sort of show how I got where I got. So we'll just start with the main synths and then sort of go to percussion and effects and the vocals and everything. So the main synth is just honestly a sample, so there's nothing crazy about that. We just really like the sound of it, and it was really high quality, and we built from that. We just chopped it up and placed it where it needed to go. So that's that. And the next synthesizer you're going to hear is this pizzicato one, and I basically made it on retro synth, and I just changed the parameters so it had a shorter attack, less sustain and all that. So this is what that sounds like. It sounds quite big and aggressive, and I thought it was quite cool the way that it's like sidechained to the kick and everything as well. So without any of these effects, it sounds pretty small. So to make it bigger, obviously a lot of reverb. I use Silververb because I really like the dry and the wet settings combined, and so and then I want to sidechain it to the kick, and to do that I just added the compressor with the sidechain to the kick, and it's quite heavy, a really heavy sidechain, but again I thought it just sounded cool. Decapitator and Devil Lock kind of work together to just make the these are Sound Toys ones, and they just kind of just add a bit of distortion, a lot of compression, and they just make it sound angry. So that's kind of the vibe I was going for with it. So it just, it's a lot louder too with those two. The next ones you're going to hear are these pads here. Nothing crazy going on here, just, you know, delay, spreader, chorus, pan man, kind of to give it this one's the same, it's just you know, an octave down. All you'll hear in the chorus is the same main synth here, but I've just changed it so it's like more. I actually wrote main synth angry, but it's just for the chorus, just to add a bit more texture and layers. So I got the main synth, and then I got an octave up as well. When I pitched up the synth, I lost a lot of. It sounds like there's a lot of resolution missing or clarity, but you don't really notice it in the mix of everything. When you solo it out, you can hear it. It sounds pretty weird actually, but yeah, it sounds fine in the grand scheme of things. These two synths are just sent to an aux, so they have the same effects, and I can control the amount of effects from there, and just so they're the same. That's just Devil Lock and reverb really, and then microshift. Microshift is great. Yeah. So from there, you can go on to vocals. I love playing with vocals. So a lot of these are just honestly, just CLA vocals, echo, and reverb essentially. There's not a whole lot else going on. So first off, you'll hear this scream effect at the start, which is pretty cool. Sounds really cool with headphones on. And tremolo, that was just tremolo, making it go left and right in the stereo field. And then you hear small effects like this, and that is Crystallizer, so that's another Sound Toys plugin that I love to use, and it's set right to wet. So this is essentially the vocal effects sort of track. There's tons of delay going on, it's just this Crystallizer here. Yeah, and it's doing most of the work there. So that's what this is the main vocal channel, and so CLA carries this a lot. Without CLA, it just sounds almost like the vocal sounded like without anything on. So I just use a preset essentially, and then just change the parameters to make it sound how I wanted it to. And then, you got little alter boy to add the lower voice in there. This is really good for doing that kind of stuff. And I just do that to make it kind of fill out a bit more of a frequency range. And that lower voice is also quite stylistic to this type of music too. So I just quite like doing that kind of stuff. And also, one of the issues I found with Maisie actually recording her own vocals was background noise. So you quite often see, the higher end and the lower end of the frequencies cut off just because of that. I couldn't really see any other way around that kind of stuff. Crystallizer and delay for these bits. For the chorus, and then on one of the drops, or the build up to the chorus, you hear this. And that's just the scream effect here, and then a reverse vocal track, and then I think it's just a track with single EQ on it to make it sound like that. It's just cut the low frequency out. It's kind of like a telephone sound. So this is what that sounds like. Yeah, just sounds cool with that section. So that's most of the vocals. I mean, I added some really bad vocal harmonies to go with the pre-chorus because it just added extra layers to everything. So this is what that sounds like. And that's mostly just reverb here and the micro shifter again, making it sound like that. It wasn't a very good take, but you can't really tell in the grand scheme of things. Again, I flex pitched it so that it's in tune, but it still sounds awful. Anyway, we've got the synth pad that goes with that too, really nicely. And the next section we'll go through are the percussion section. But honestly, I haven't edited them very much. I've just kind of written them in through MIDI and sort of placed them with audio, and then they kind of just sound good anyway. There's not a whole lot to talk about that, to be honest with you. It's just drums at the end of the day. Yeah, so that's that essentially. And then where's the chorus? It's here, isn't it? Yeah. That's the percussion section. There's not much to talk about with that. And then we've got the effects kind of things. Again, not much to talk about really, just like filters and risers. I think that's sidechained to the kick as well to give it that effect. And I definitely stretched it. So what I would do is get the white noise, reverse it like that. I probably stretched it, so I just held options and then stretched it, and then sidechain. So that's all that is. And then occasionally you'll hear the sub here doing the break. That's just a sample. Just sampled it. That's it. That's the whole track. I'm waiting on U-Track. I noticed my fans are going a bit crazy recording the screen and using Logic at the same time, so I'm sorry. But so yeah, we're going to talk about the percussion first, I think. They add quite a lot to the song. So if I solo them, there's not a whole lot to talk about, honestly. It's just samples and MIDI being played, and it's just layering them all so they all sound good together. We did actually record our own finger clicks, and we just edited the lower end because it was kind of making a plosive kind of sound. So we only did that because it kind of more authentic in a way. So here's the chorus. Lots of snares together over here, all with different kind of for example, this one's kind of the higher end of the snare. This one's kind of like the snappy beginning part of the snare. And they all sort of complement each other. Everything you put me through. There's a couple of effects going on. So, for example, the bluebird. I've just made it very bassy with the EQ there, and then compression to kind of make it big. So in the drop, you hear like. Same again over here. Everything you. Just no more sections, more layers to it, and then otherwise you hear things like the reverse claps and reverb, and then so that's very simple. It's just like I think it's just a click reversed, and then not reversed but with loads of reverb, basically. So that's that. So I think I might talk about the synthesizers now. So the synthesizer was played on the Dave Smith and recorded in, and then just chopped up. There's not much going on else with it. It came out like this. So yeah, just chopped it up to make it perform better. And then the next one you'll hear is kind of the flute synth. So again, not much going on. That's just a preset sound. Oh, I think actually, yeah. So that's just a MIDI. The next one you're going to hear is the arpeggiator. It's a really good build-up, actually. It's just the MIDI tool arpeggiator. Really handy. So when I take off all of these, and then you want to make it sound big, so silver verb, single EQ to make it kind of high cut, compressor, and then tremolo to warp it around the stereo field. And then the next one you're going to hear is the chorus. But it's essentially a simple analog lead and then really short attack. So you change the parameters here, and then again short everything else. Essentially, it's just a really snappy synth sound. And then I changed the sense a tiny bit just to give it the kind of chorusy type effect, and that's it essentially. A bit of glide just to make it the notes glide together a little bit. I'm really bad at talking about these kind of things, I'm so sorry. And otherwise we have a lot of effects just to beef it essentially. So if I take them off, you can really hear the simple analog lead. So compression, I think it's sidechained, overdrive, and then to make it massive again, silver verb. Bit of gain, and then EQ because I was getting some nasty frequencies coming in. It's crackling a bit because I think there's a lot going on right now. Vocals, so we'll go on to that. That's essentially CLA again, as in, you know, as like in the other tracks.
Where to go, where to go? You just know how.
And then I flex pitched all of them, so that they're sung well, essentially. And you get
For
the harmonies here,
if only I
and
could take you.
just very wet harmonies.
If I could only change for
And their side change as well, I think, to the kit.
I would make it all just new. Inside myself is empty.
And then there's some octave singing here, just to
New. Inside myself is empty.
make it more interesting.
Inside myself is empty.
I think I heard alto boy there somewhere as well. I think it's pitch shift here.
Is empty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next, we have the chorus vocals.
And it feels just like I'm waiting on you.
Joe's voice goes really well with the microphone we're using, the Neumann M147, I think.
Everything you put me through.
I used the DSR, I think, because there were some sibilance noises that were quite loud in the mix. CLA vocals, it's really just using a preset and then changing the parameters, so just to make it sound better.
And if I was to tell you all the truth,
and then some more layers here. I think this is the harmony.
Everything inside myself is empty. Inside myself is empty.
Okay, the next thing you'll hear is Chloe's voice.
And I know that things have changed.
So, CLA vocals, Echo Boy and Little Alter Boy.
The things you do drive me insane.
Harmonies.
The things you do drive me insane.
I think at the time as well, Chloe was quite nervous, and so I did so many takes of the vocals, which are all hidden. Quite a few. And then just chopped them up and made like a comp track with them, so.
Inside myself is empty.
Okay, we hear a lot more Dave Smith here, so.
Everything inside myself is
Dave Smith again, just an arpeggiated bank it had. Here we had a build up, so Dave Smith again. And then here is more Dave Smith in the final chorus. Heavily sidechained, distorted, tremolo, space designer to make it sound a bit bigger. And that was just us playing with the pitch modulator on the actual Dave Smith to give it that kind of bending sound.
everything.
Right, boring stuff. Risers, reverse risers. What else do we have going on? That's essentially it. I mean, and then there are some vocal effects from Chloe in the final part of the recording.
Everything inside myself.
It's empty, it's empty, it's
Empty.
empty.
CLA, lots of reverb, and then Panman has this really cool setting called Wider and Wider, and I think essentially what it is when the audio file is getting louder, the spread increases. So as you see it like playing.
It's empty, it's empty, it's empty.
Yeah, so the louder it gets, the further the spread, which is pretty interesting. I just thought it sounded cool. The Over You track. And so this one's more simple than the others, but it's probably my favorite because I've done some weird sounds and it was just the most fun probably. So I'll start with percussion again. And so here's sort of my percussion section. And it's very simple. I think it's just kick, snare, with some little details in the background. So here's a sample. I just singly cued it. Bit of pan man to add some spread, and it's kind of going everywhere. It sounds really cool. These are just layers of kick and snare. Some extra details here with the shaker. This is just a little wood block, just small details. White noise levels in here, of course. Crazy. And then to keep it simple, because I really wanted loads of space in this track, so to keep it simple, I think it's the same thing pretty much in the chorus here. Not loads of layers, I didn't want to go drastic with it. And then simple hi-hat patterns, so that's just panned, I think. Pretty sure it's just automated, yeah. Automated panning. And then just ride cymbal. Electronic ride cymbal, of course. Pan man. So it's just going left and right. Next I'll go on to the synths because I've added some weird sounds with the synths. So the one thing I would change definitely with this song is just the mix. So I've just been doing everything in my headphones and through the laptop speakers, but I know for a fact that the frequencies and the EQ and the mix and everything is just off. So I really need to get into the studio to hear it properly and change things. But for now, it sounds okay. This is the Dave Smith again. Singly cue here just to build. I'm pretty sure they're automated in different places for like a riser effect. So here you can hear it starts to open up a bit. Or actually not, it closes a bit, so the opposite. Next you'll hear in the chorus this effect. And that is essentially the crystallizer again, devil lock, and then I'm just automating the crystallizer effects, and it kind of when you do that, it kind of goes a bit wacky, and the delays go kind of, as you can hear there with the automation. Wacky's not a technical term, of course, but so you can hear it here when I start to raise it. Here is just the same track, but with a lot of reverb, and it kind of just, the reverb gets louder as well as the crystallizer here, so hear it. The final sort of choruses, it goes funny with the and that's just the automation. That's just the crystallizer going crazy when you automate it. So that's how I got that sound. And I just can't feel it. And because of COVID, I had to record this section of vocals on my phone. But in some ways, I actually prefer it to the Neumann. I don't know if my phone just suits my voice better or not. But I did have issues with background noise and just like resolution issues that I had to delete. So yeah.
And I just can't feel it.
So I just sang the same verse twice and then panned it differently. CLA vocals, micro shift twice.
I'm still over you.
It kind of gives it that.
And I just can't feel it.
Just sounds wider. Echo boy for
I'm
a
still
tiny bit
over
of
you.
echo or delay.
I'm taking a minute.
And then again in the end,
I just can't feel it.
but with the harmonies this time.
So I'm still over you. Taking a minute.
And just to keep as much space as I can in the chorus, I just alternate the volumes of each of these in every space just to get rid of the reverb and make more space for the drums so you can hear it kind of.
I just can't feel it. 'Cause I'm still over you. Taking a minute.
And the easiest way to do that is just the marquee tool, so you can just select a tiny section, click it, and then pop. So yeah, and that's the whole song essentially. I think there's a lot more to do once I get back to studio monitors and everything, but for the meantime, that's essentially the track. So yeah.